I'm back. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And I apologize about that. I literally just got carried away. So, if you are joining me for the first time tonight or today, tomorrow, whenever you're watching this, my name is Victoria Walker, and I am a life coach, a spiritual teacher, and I talk all things about self mastery and really helping people understand the power of themselves and their path and discovering more of who they are so they can be who they are supposed to be. So anyway, getting into what I was speaking about before I got cut off. So I was speaking about self-mastery and what it is and what it means and why it's important. Because, we're living in a modern society which conventional wisdom teaches us that, to be happy, to be successful, to, create this amazing life, we need lots of money and lots of social media followers and, lots of fame and good looks. And yeah, I mean, some of these things are great, they're nice, I don't deny that. However, the biggest challenge that we are seeing is despite a lot of people achieving and accomplishing these things, the status, whatever, there are lots of them that are very deeply miserable, unfulfilled, and sad. And it's like, why? And I've seen this so many times in my career. I've seen it amongst my peers. They have everything, whatever they've wanted, they've done. I've been here myself. And for whatever reason, whatever level you reach, whatever success you get, as soon as you get it, it's like, okay, was it it? And there can be like a big sort of like dip, like a big, almost like crashing down, especially when your whole existence or you've been working so hard to get to a place and then you get there and you don't even like it. Can you imagine? So many people spent years trying to reach somewhere thinking, yeah, when I get here, I'm gonna be so happy and life is gonna be good. And then you get there and it's like, it's really not what you thought it was gonna be. So I want to talk about this because there's a lot of conversations on these internet streets, and I personally find that they lack true depth. And I mean, there's some good content creators, but me, I'm just talking about content or sharing content that I think genuinely will and can and have seen how it's helped people go from one level in life to a next, right? And there's always another level, there's always lessons to be learned. I speak from a place of experience and wisdom, and I share what I've been taught by many of the great mentors and teachers that I've been fortunate to have in my life. So today, I'm going to be sharing once again about the 7 pillars of self mastery and how you can apply these tools or ideas like into your life so that you can actually find true meaning, true fulfillment, better relationships, more like mental energy, more mastery. Like when you master yourself, this is one thing my mentor told me, like, and this person is extremely, extremely, extremely successful. And it was my mentor when I was about 24, when I worked in my banking career. One of the things that he said to me was, because I asked him like, okay, well, what is the key to success? Like, what is it? And he just said 3 words like, know, well, 2 words, know yourself. He's like, know yourself and master yourself, and you will master life. That was it. That's what he said. And I think that stuck with me because I'm like, okay, well, I know myself. My name's Victoria, but as I moved, like that was 10 years ago. So as I moved through life, like I fully understand what he meant, because by identifying and knowing yourself, you can deal with and manage everything much better. Like, for example, if you know yourself well enough to know that I'm not really a morning person and, this is not my thing, you'll be more authentic when somebody asks or invites you to something where you probably may not go, or you might struggle to go, or you might not necessarily want to. By knowing yourself, you can actually set limits and boundaries in a way to say, do you know what, this doesn't work for me, because this is how I am and I'm okay with that. And you need to know that. So that means you can engage, but you know me, you know what I like, you know what I expect, you know what I require, and you know we can vibe. So it's so important to know yourself, like your weaknesses, your strengths, your fears, your hopes, your dreams. Like be really clear on these things, because the more you're aware of them, the better you will be at communicating them. The better you communicate, the better you are at communicating what you want, what you need, what's important to you, what you value, the better your relationships will be, because people don't have to guess how to treat you, because you've already made it very clear what you expect, what you require, what you need. But you can't get to that place if you don't know yourself, right? It's like proper, like the most common logic. If you don't know yourself, you will not know how to communicate and even how to go for what you want. If you don't know yourself, you will be going for and trying to pursue all the things that don't necessarily mean anything to you, but because in society it makes you look good or it means something to everybody else, you will do it. And then be very, very miserable at the end of it when you're stuck in something that's not true to you. You don't like it. So, anyway, I'm not going to go on a tangent because I want to make this video like sweet, short, simple, a bit of nid tips or tidbits. You guys can like go away and, try it. One thing I say is anything you learn, like test it. Test it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, well, it doesn't work. Move on to the next. So, the 7 pillars of self mastery. And what is self mastery? So, let me go back to the definition that I was reading out to y'all before I got cut off. So, the definition of self mastery. So, mastery is usually defined as being highly skilled or proficient in an area. Self mastery takes this to a next level. To be the master of yourself is to fully understand who you are. Like I just said, you got to understand who you are. And in my last programs that I did, and I did Discover You, the whole framework was about really understanding and studying what you were good at, what your strengths were, you know. And this goes like into so many different things. Everyone's got their own kind of archetype, their own energy, their own being. And by unearthing that core essence of who you are, and that is a lot of self-reflection, self-study, learning, you then can kind of like literally live in your full essence, which puts you in what I call flow. Like when you're in flow, it's like everything just flows. You might have some hiccups and this, that, and the other, but everything just works out and it feels good. Whatever you're doing just feels right. It just feels like the stars align. And that's being in flow state, like truly, like if you're aligned and you're walking in your purpose and on your path, life will flow much more easier. It will not be like a struggle where you try something, it doesn't work, and I've seen it so many times. I've done it, like you're just putting things out, you're doing it. It's just, there's no breakthrough. There's no, like, everything just seems stagnant. It's not happening. And that's fine. Like some people keep going, and then have a breakthrough. And then there's some people that just come on the scene and it's just like magic. They the same thing you've been trying to do for like 5 years. They're just in 2 months, they're just killing it. And that's because often the person that's walking in their purpose and their grace, it's like things just happen. It's like magic. It literally is magic. So this is why I always encourage people to really do this inner work, this self reflection, this self mastering. And it takes years. It's not something that happens overnight. Like discovering yourself is like taking away the layers of your childhood trauma, your, your biggest dreams. It's looking at the relationships that shaped you. It's assessing like your personality traits, the bad ones and the good ones. And it's not easy. Most people live in a very big fantasy of who they are because we only really want to see the good parts of us and the good parts of ourselves. So it's really difficult to really like hold a mirror up to yourself and say, this is who I am, and own it. And this is what self-mastery is. It's saying, do you know what? I am this. I like this. I'm not perfect. These are my weaknesses. These are my strengths. And this is who I am. And I'm okay with it. And even if you're not okay with it, I'm okay with it. And I'm not bothered if you're not okay with it, because I'm okay with it. That is how you build one self-esteem, which comes from self-mastery. If you have self-mastery with no self-esteem, you probably will become a narcissist. Because, you know, when you are a master, or when you go into this walk of self-mastery, you may come across arrogant. Well, what people think is arrogant. And there's a fine line between arrogance and confidence, guys. When you are confident, because there's nothing, no one can say to you, about you, to you, that will diminish your sense of self, of who you are. And that can only happen if you know who you are and you're okay with who you are. You feel me? Good. So, 7 pillars. We'll go to the first one, self-awareness. Kind of what I've just talked about. You know, you got to be aware. You don't know what's going on. You know, it's like if you're not aware that if you drink poison, you're going to die, chances are if you drink poison, you may die. So knowing, being aware of something allows you to make better choices and better decisions. You'll avoid the poison if you're aware of what it does, right? So self-awareness is pretty much the same thing. You're shining a light onto parts of yourself that are probably hidden. Like psychologically, we all have blind spots, like things about our personality, ourselves, that we're just not comfortable or even aware of. And so self-awareness is actually becoming aware of these things. Like, for example, if I really want to pull something up. It's not on topic, but it's not off topic. Well, it's not on topic, but it's not off topic. But I see certain posts or certain commentary, and I just look and I think, like, you're not self-aware. And it's not a judgment, it's a fact. Because if you can come up with this kind of rhetoric, then you have no sense of awareness of human nature, how people operate, and like how life works. And if you think life works in this magical conundrum where everybody should be like this and that, truly you must think that about yourself, which means you're not self-aware. I think I should pull this up. And it's no shade. I'm not casting any aspersions against anybody. But I see a lot of things on the internet, and I really think, like, are we really here as a society? Like, really? Do we? I really do question, like. But anyways, so let me go to this comment, not comment. It is a post. Let me see if I can still get it up. And I saw this and I was like, it was a stupid question, but I get it. Like, I get where people or certain groups of people are coming from. But again, it's like, when you have that level of self-awareness, or when you have a low level of self-awareness, you will see life in a very narrow perspective, extremely narrow perspective. And when that happens, you don't think properly. Like, you don't think properly. That's it. And being able to be a master of life, a master of self, the first thing is you've got to have like the ability to reason and have like some sense of logic and understanding of not just yourself and what your views are, but like the wider perspective. And you'll find that there is a lot of people that are very narrow-minded. Like, they cannot comprehend anything outside of their own belief system, right? So if somebody's coming from a place of trauma, if somebody's coming from a place of they've experienced some level of abandonment, some level of rejection, some wound, some emotional wound from maybe a caregiver or an ex-partner, chances are, if they've not done the work or they've done the healing and they're not self-aware that they need to, they're going to like promote and spew this narrative or spew a narrative. And often they'll do this in hopes that the negative view that they want to cast on you, because that's really what they feel about themselves, that you're going to take it on. And it's what we call a power exchange, right? You don't see it, but you feel it. Like when somebody tries to like diminish you in some way, or to say something, or to put something out there, even in a question, but you know it's like shade, and you know it's like, okay. So I'm just going to show this. I feel like maybe it's going off topic, but I also want to use it as an example of what I'm talking about, which is lack of self-awareness. And again, like this goes on two sides. If you don't have the sense of self, of who you are and your story, your past, what has happened, and you don't own that and you're not confident in that, then chances are if somebody spews something or casts some kind of shade, you're going to feel it. It's going to trigger you, right? So I want to talk about this because this post, I just thought it was stupid, but then I keep hearing this conversation, so I feel like, okay, let's talk about it. Let me see if I can get it up. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. Can you guys see my screen? Right. So this is what I saw in a group, and I've seen floating around. Again, maybe where attention goes, energy flows. But we all know there's this one particular YouTuber on these internet streets, and there's this whole army of what I can only say is wounded individuals who have created almost like a cult. And that's the only way I could describe it. A cult following, a cult with an ideology that, and you know what? Guess what? Let me just say this. This ideology is a truth to some people, right? It is a truth even in certain parts of the world. It's a standard, right? And we can't deny this. But let me just get into the question, as y'all can see. So it says, if a woman has slept, procreated with substandard men in her past, why should she make a good man wait to smash? Again, that even just the question is just illogical, but anyway, we'll move forward. Does this not show that her priorities and judgment skills are lacking? Okay. So I was going to say reasonable question, but it's actually, for me, it doesn't make sense, because basically what this, and again, this is about self-awareness. This is about somebody whose awareness and value system is based, especially when it comes to or pertains to women, is the value system is that what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong if you're the creator of this post, is that the logic behind this is that if a person makes a mistake, or I wouldn't say children a mistake, but has a failed relationship or something didn't work out in her past, that by virtue of making an error, she should then make another error by jumping into the act of creating life with somebody she doesn't know. Sorry, but I just have to y'all need to see my face for this reaction, because it doesn't really make sense. So let me just explain that again. So the question is basically saying, if somebody slept or procreated with a substandard man in her past, okay, so if your level, let's just say you dated somebody that wasn't good for you, which guess what? 90%, if not 100 people who date and marry or whatever, that happens, even including probably this person themselves. So you're saying like, okay, if you've done this, then why make a good man wait. And I get the male logic. They're thinking, well, okay, if you've made Tyrone from Peckham smash you for like Raw for whatever, why should you make a good guy wait? But it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense, because it's like me saying, okay, I crashed my car like 10 years ago, and then you're telling me, oh well, because you crashed your car before, like why not you should just drink drive, like you crashed your car before, so just drive drunk on the road, because you did it before, and so why should you just not drink? Do you understand? It's just stupid. So what my point is that only someone who lacks self-awareness or any kind of sensible way of thinking would think like that, And a lot of people are out here who think like that proudly, boldly. And this is a prime example of how one can lack self-mastery, because if you are now approaching life like, okay, well, if somebody makes a bad choice once, they need to do it again just to please my benefit, just so I can benefit from, or your worth and value is diminished because you erred and made a mistake, or you had a failed relationship, or you chose to sleep with somebody that probably wasn't even all that, which I think most women in more Western society, if you're not virgin, maybe has done. So my point is that there's a lot of illogical falsities from people who aren't even that self-aware. They think they are, but they're really not. They're just clout chasers. They're doing it for, they're doing it for some level of esteem. Again, this is external validation rather than internal. And we're going to be mindful about one of these kind of people, and mindful that you're not getting caught up into this trap of not discovering your true for you, right? Because there's a lot of bandwagon people that just because one person has an ideology or an idea and you haven't really introspected on, what do I feel about this? Maybe you feel the same way about that, and that's fine. Everyone has to have their own belief system, and everyone has to have their own value system that works for them, right? But however, if your value system is damaging to you or another group of people, if your value system is demeaning and disrespectful to another group of people, just see how well that works for you in your life. That's all I can say on that matter. So anyway, moving forward, we're going to look at the second pillar. I highly doubt I'm going to go through 7. I'm probably just going to do 3, and I will do a part 2 because I'll waffle, and the life's just going to be long, and I don't want it to be long, okay? So self-exploration. So this is a key thing, because when you self-explore, you're thinking, why do I act like this? Like, why am I repeating? And then that's a hard question to ask yourself, especially when you're dysfunctional, which most people are. No shame in the game, but it takes a real master of self to actually think, do you know what? You see, my behavior and the results that I produce in my life are they're really not what I want. So how can I explore what I'm doing? Because, most people, you probably know a few, will be like pointing, oh, well, she did that and he did this, and my life is bad because this happened, and I lost my job in 2001 and I could never get it back. And since then, I can't get a job again. And, all these excuses. Again, this shows lack of self-mastery. So when you do self-exploration, you can kind of reflect. You're exploring, like, okay, why is this like this in my life? Because if it's in my life, somehow I'm creating it. It's me. I always think that if something's going wrong in my life, or I'm having kind of some issues, I always think, okay, what have I done to put myself in this scenario, which I don't want to be in. And every time I've done that, I've been able to self-correct and most times not make it happen again. And that is part of self-mastery. And it comes from having humility to know that, you know what? I am imperfect and I make mistakes all the time. But guess what? I'm okay about it and I'm going to own it. And it still doesn't define my mistakes, don't define me. And this, my friend, is one of the core things I teach my girls and the people I work with. Like, you know, you're going to make mistakes in life. That is the whole purpose of living, is to grow. And the baby doesn't start to walk without falling 5, 6, 7, 8, 20, 30 times, because through error, you learn how to do it correctly. Like, that's life. Like, I didn't know many things, but I just tried it and kept doing it and kept doing it. And then you become good at it, right? This is the whole point about self-mastery. The more you do these things, learn, you know, get self-aware, the more you self-explore, the more you, the next one, self-understand, the more. So remember, it's all about you. Selfish. And don't feel bad for thinking about yourself, because guess what? The best thing you could ever do is you. There is no honor, there is no prize or reward for saving other people, because you can support people, but let's just be real. Like, everybody has the same 24 hours, everybody has access to the same books, and everybody is on their own path and journey, and everybody learns in their own time and way. Now, if somebody is ready to learn from you and they want to be a student, by all means, but avoid trying to help people who aren't in the process of really trying to help yourself, because you're wasting your time, right? Wasting it. Focus on self-mastery, self-awareness. It pays the best dividends. And I'm talking from not only my own experience, but many people, great people, you know. And when I say success, I don't really think having money and all that. Because I've seen a lot of successful people with a lot of money and they're very unhappy, so I don't consider them successful. But the ones that I do, like my mentors, that they just live a very good life. Like, they're peaceful, you know, they don't want for anything, they don't harm, like, they're just good beings, they're in a good place, you know, they just have this vibe about them. And it's like, that's what I feel is like self-mastery. Like, they're in control of their world, they're in control of like themselves. And even if they have issues, it's like they just maneuver through it. Right, my battery's going to die, so I'm going to need to speed this up. Right, so self-exploration, if you're not exploring yourself and who you are, and exploring, you know, why you behave the way you do, or why you think the way you do, often you think your thinking is normal, but it's corrupted by like unnormal and abnormal things. I know our culture normalizes so many things that are just not normal, like really like normalizes like things that are just abnormal, right? And it's up to you to decide, does this action in my heart feel good, right, normal? Like, does it sit with me? And guess what? Whatever sits with you is fine. Like, I believe there is no right and wrong. Well, I think right and wrong can be subjective to the person and the situation, because you can say, is it right to kill or not? Now, somebody's going to kill me and I'm trying to protect my life. It might not be, it could be right in that situation. Is it right to steal? In some certain scenarios, if you're starving and there's a kid, so there's right and wrong in my mind. Is like, for me, it's like, is it beneficial? I mean, is it constructive or is it destructive? Is it beneficial to the whole? And it's not just me. Like, if what I'm going to do, will it benefit me and many or not? Like, you got to really have your own moral compass. And then if you're like a normal person, or say normal person, if you have,